The story starts with a family, mom, dad, and their daughter Chihiro, driving to their new home in a new city. Chihiro is sad about moving and is holding a bouquet with a card that says, "Goodbye, Chihiro." Her dad decides to take a different road, and they end up at an old, creepy tunnel. Chihiro is scared and wants to go back, but her parents are curious and want to check it out. Chihiro reluctantly follows them into the tunnel, holding on to her mom. Inside, they find an old, abandoned amusement park. Chihiro's parents smell some delicious food and think the market might still be open. They go to a food stall and start eating, thinking they can pay later. They ask Chihiro to join them, but she's too scared and decides to explore on her own. While exploring, Chihiro finds a bathhouse with smoke coming out of it. As she watches a train go by, a boy suddenly appears. He grabs Chihiro and tells her to run because it's getting dark and dangerous. Chihiro races back to where her parents were, but instead of her mom and dad, she finds two pigs sitting there. She's frightened and calls for her parents as it gets darker. The place changes and Chihiro finds herself by a river instead of a field. She thinks it's a dream and tries to wake up, but her body starts turning see-through. Scared, she sees her hands becoming transparent. The boy comes back with a magic tablet and tells Chihiro to eat it or she'll disappear completely. She eats the tablet and turns back to normal. They hide from some shadowy spirits and the boy makes Chihiro invisible with a spell. He tells her to hold her breath while crossing a bridge to keep the spell working. Frog jumps up and calls the boy Master Haku, making Chihiro accidentally breathe out. The spirits notice her, so Haku quickly puts a spell on the frog to keep it quiet, and they escape. Haku tells Chihiro she needs to go to a place called Kamaji, find work, or Yubaba. The sorceress who rules this place will turn her into an animal. He touches her forehead to show her the way and says he's there to help. He also says he knows her from when she was younger. Chihiro finds a steep staircase leading to Kamaji's place. As she carefully goes down, one of the steps breaks, and she falls into a wall. She finally reaches Kamaji's boiler room. Tiny, hairy creatures are shoveling coal into a furnace. Kamaji, who has 6 arms, is busy crushing herbs. When Chihiro asks for work, he says he doesn't have any. She refuses to leave and helps the little creatures by throwing coal into the fire. They copy her and make a mess. A woman named Lin arrives and realizes Chihiro is human. Kamaji tells Lin to take Chihiro to Yubaba because he can't help her. Lin agrees after Kamaji gives her some money. As they head to Yubaba's place, Chihiro sees the bathhouse where spirits are relaxing and understands she's in a magical world. Lin hides Chihiro as they go to an elevator. Frog from earlier shows up and warns Lin that she smells like humans. Lin distracts him and gets Chihiro into the elevator to Yubaba's office. At Yubaba's door, Chihiro tries to open it. The doorknob tells her to knock first. Inside, they meet Yubaba, an old woman with a huge head. Chihiro asks for work, but Yubaba seals her mouth shut, saying humans aren't allowed here. She threatens to turn Chihiro into a piglet like her parents, or into a lump of coal. Then Yubaba unseals Chihiro's mouth, and Chihiro immediately asks for a job. Yubaba gets very angry, and suddenly, a giant baby's foot crashes through the door, breaking everything. Yubaba rushes off to deal with the mess. Eventually, Yubaba gives Chihiro a paper to sign, takes part of Chihiro's name, and gives her a new name, Sin. Haku arrives, and Yubaba tells him to show Sin her new job. Chihiro, now called Sin, tries to call Haku by his real name, but Haku pretends not to know her and tells her to call him Master Haku. Lin, who is helping Sin, warns her to be careful around Haku, because he works for Yubaba, the sorceress. As night falls, everyone goes to sleep. Yubaba wraps herself in a cloak and turns into a bird-like creature to fly away. Later, Haku finds Sin and takes her to see her parents, who have turned into pigs and don't remember being human. Haku explains that Yubaba takes people's names to control them, which is why he lost his own. Gives Sin some food, which makes her cry. The next day, Sin sees a dragon flying in the sky and has trouble with her work. She meets the same shadowy spirit from before and invites it inside. Sin and Lin are given the job of cleaning a huge tub for very dirty spirits, which is usually done by frogs. They need a special token to fill the tub with herbal water, but the receptionist won't give it to them. The shadow spirit helps by getting the token while the receptionist is distracted. Sin thanks him, but he later brings too many tokens, which makes him sad, so he leaves. A really stinky spirit arrives, making everyone run away. Sin has to deal with it. She leads the spirit to the tub she cleaned, but the spirit turns the water into mud. Sin uses the tokens from the shadow spirit but falls into the tub. When the spirit picks her up, she feels something sticking out. Yubaba arrives and they use a rope to pull out a lot of garbage, revealing the spirit of a great river. The river spirit thanks Sin with a green herbal ball and everyone cheers. Yubaba thanks Sin for her good work. Later, the shadow spirit is seen relaxing in a tub when a small frog comes and says the bathhouse is closed. The shadow spirit shows gold and eats the frog, using its voice to speak. He tells another worker to wake everyone up and throws around some gold. The next morning, Sin wakes up alone. Lin tells her that a spirit is giving out gold and suggests Sin join them. Sin says no and goes to the balcony, where she sees the dragon from before. It's Haku, who is coughing up blood but quickly leaves to go to Yubaba. Paper Bird attaches itself to Sin and leads her towards Yubaba's place. But the way is blocked by the shadow spirit. He offers her gold, but she refuses and keeps looking. Suddenly, the paper bird turns into Yubaba's twin sister. She changes Yubaba's baby into a mouse, turns another creature into a small bird, and makes 3 heads into Yubaba's baby. She says Haku must be punished for stealing. Sin defends Haku, saying it's not his fault. Haku fights the paper bird, causing Yubaba's sister to disappear. They all fall into a vent that leads to Kamaji's boiler room, with the mouse and bird following them. At Kamaji's place, Sin learns that Haku is under a spell. She gives him half of the herbal ball from the river spirit to help him throw up the stolen seal and a worm-like creature, which is the curse. As Haku changes back into his human form, Kamaji explains that Haku wanted to learn magic and became Yubaba's apprentice. Sin decides to visit Yubaba's twin sister Zeniba, return the seal, and apologize for Haku. Kamaji gives her 4 train tickets for the trip. Before she leaves, Sin is called to deal with No-Face, the shadow spirit who keeps eating everything. She feeds No-Face half of the herbal ball, making him vomit everything he ate. No-Face chases after her as she heads to the train station, with Lin helping her. No-Face, the mouse, and the bird follow her to Zeniba's place. Meanwhile, Yubaba realizes her baby is missing and that the 3 heads have returned to their original forms. She orders Haku to get the baby back, but Haku says he'll only do it if Yubaba promises to return Chihiro and her parents to their world. At Zeniba's house, Chihiro returns the seal and apologizes to Zeniba for Haku. Zeniba agrees to help, but tells Chihiro she must finish the journey on her own. Just then the doorbell rings and Haku, now in dragon form, arrives. No-Face stays with Zeniba, while the mouse and the bird go with Haku and Chihiro. As they travel, Chihiro remembers that she once fell into a river called Kohaku and was saved by Haku. She realizes Haku's real name is Kohaku. When Haku hears this, he changes back into his human form and remembers his name. He thanks Chihiro for helping him remember. When they get back to Yubaba's, Haku returns the baby, who changes from a mouse back to his real form. Haku demands that Yubaba send Chihiro and her parents back to their world. Yubaba agrees, but makes Chihiro answer one last question. She puts a bunch of pigs in front of Chihiro and asks her to pick out her parents. After a tense moment, Chihiro says none of the pigs are her parents. The pigs turn back into workers, and the contract turns into dust. Haku tells Chihiro to go to her parents, who are waiting outside. He advises her not to look back. When Chihiro asks if they will meet again, Haku says he will finish his work and return to the human world, and they will definitely meet again. As Chihiro leaves, the magical world disappears, and she finds her parents, who don't remember the adventure she had. They all leave together, and the story ends.